Well, hello, I'm Lucy Cook. Richard Cook and I built a Free Notes company starting in Moab, Utah, where outdoor recreation played a very central part to our life. However, the concept for outdoor musical instruments really developed as a result of a chance meeting with jazz legend Paul Winter in New York City in 1985. That opened the door for Richard, my partner, to record on an album with Paul, tour with the band, which eventually led to a Grammy Award in 2007. Fueled by passion for music and adventure in the great outdoors, Richard's ultimate destiny with the Paul Winter Consort led to the creation of the Free Notes and the development of outdoor musical instruments. Being captivated by the wonder of resonant sound and the delight making music brings, Free Notes pioneered a creative alternative to traditional playground equipment by making real musical instruments accessible in public places so everyone can play. Free Notes are an ensemble of real instruments with distinct pure tones that blend into soothing sounds. These percussion instruments are perfectly tuned and make musical expression possible regardless of your musical training. So I have a section of one of our instruments here I'll demonstrate.
Break over.
So ensuring musical success from the very first note, no other system delivers this opportunity, especially for a novice. All of our designs play together, and any combination of notes are pleasing. So it's concert quality sound that sets us apart in the industry. And not only can you approach the instrument you've never seen before and play it immediately, you can also play with others. So we entered the market through the parks and recreation industry. But what we are discovering is that we're creating a whole new industry around musical parks, seeing how we've grown beyond the playground. This is what a landscape architect would do. So we're seeing new trends in musical parks. This is on the right there is the courtyard outside of the beautiful Parker Arts and Cultural Events Center. And you'll notice there's a variety of age groups in exploring the sound. And then down here is a marker for a new Buffalo Rotary music trail. We are also, Wow.
Go ahead, keep going. You get 1 more minute.
Oops, wait, I had a couple more slides there. Oh, well, I guess they didn't get in there. Okay, well, so what are the innovations and the disruptive impacts?
There.
Oops, that's too far. No, I had a couple of just images. Well, what I was going to show you, and it's worth expounding upon, is the Gatlinburg Pedestrian Plaza, which is a brand new facility. It's one of our most recent. They've got a collection, and the Chamber of Commerce outside of Sedona, Arizona's main event. They've got a grouping of 5 instruments, similar to what they have over there at Parker. So there should have been a couple slides there, but what we're doing to keep up with the demand is partnering and finding ways of outsourcing, and injection molding is one of our latest innovatives that is leading to the reduced costs of labor and increased efficiency in our production. And one of the things we're hoping to have soon is the improvisational activities delivered to mobile devices, so that you could be anywhere in the world standing in front of one of our instruments with a smartphone, scan it, it will tell you what instrument you're playing and ask you, do you want a demonstration of that instrument? Do you want to play with other instruments? Do you want to have music to play along with? All these things help to spur creativity. Oh, well, and then so I just skipped the disruptive things. Because we're at the top of an industry that we've created, we really have very little competition, and so we haven't experienced really anything disruptive. Our biggest barriers to success, we've created a national brand, and our market size is largely unquantifiable. If you take every public space in every city around the world, that gives you an idea of what the market size is. And because of our steep growth curve and trying to keep up with the costs of growth, we do not have an enormous marketing budget to just flood the market with campaigns to raise public awareness. So our biggest barrier is lack of product awareness. And what comes along with that is the old school thinking around durability and sound quality. We've proven the concept, and that's why we're really starting to see phenomenal growth on a worldwide scale. But what we have is not competing with other outdoor musical instrument makers, but we have conflicting projects for public spaces, and we're competing for dollars. And another one of the barriers that we're fighting right now is we're trying to redefine the playground regulations for playground equipment, because we simply aren't things that kids climb on. And so some of the protrusions and things that are part of our designs that don't comply have caused some problems with us in the regulations. And then of course, anything in the public domain, you have your vandalism concerns. Well, I'm happy to say that music reduces vandalism. And this is no joke. So Dr. Scott Lipscomb from the music department at the University of Minnesota has teamed up with the Rotary Park in Minneapolis. This is Jackson Square. This was a controversial installation. The only thing in the park are these 7 instruments. They won an International Significant Rotary Achievement Award. And for 2 years, they've been monitoring with cameras the activities that have gone on in this inner city neighborhood. This is the only installation that put up a $5,000 escrow account for warranty and vandalism for maintenance issues. They haven't drawn a dime. And I have a quote here from Doug Schmidt. 3 years ago, as we prepared to install 7 Freenotes instruments into Jackson Square Park, we were nervous about how these instruments would be accepted into this inner city neighborhood. I'm happy to report that the instruments remain fully functional and sounding beautiful. We'd love to hear that.
Unfortunately, we are out of time.
Okay.
So, Christy, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna pump through the slides, but here's the deal. They're supposed to be sharing with us what are barriers, what are opportunities that they have. And Carrie, let me know I missed something really important. Christy was with our creative services industry. Next up, we have financial services. This is Chris Pelly, and I'm going to heckle him. Chris is a talker. Chris, I'll buy you a drink if you can do this in 7 minutes. Keep coming.
Timing. Which, this?
On the right.
Okay, got it.
Here you go. You gotta hold this.
Okay, hold this. Ready? Steady. Click. Oops. That's good. I can work that. Click that. Take that picture. Go. Private wealth management. Oh, hold on.
Click.
No picture.
Click.
Click.
Here.
Hold on.
Let me help you.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay, you'll do that for me. So,
Uh-oh.
we're off to a slow start.
We are.
This is the best part.
Okay, you're counting, just so you know.
Okay, so you get 7.5.
There you go. Keep going. It's not your animation cycle.
Okay. How many people have seen 60 Minutes with Scott Pelly? Got it? CBS Evening News. Hello? So I always raise the question, who would you trust with your money? The smart-looking guy or the good-looking guy? And as you ponder your response, because we know in our society where form always trumps substance, that is the median business to impart knowledge or sell advertising? And while you're pondering that response, think of this. Oh, bugger. It's a good old adage. And the old adage is, for every complex problem, there's an answer that's simple, neat, and wrong. And that then leads into this whole notion. Simple, neat, and wrong. Hayek, right? And so at the end of the day, what indeed do? We guide people through complexity and help them make better decisions, primarily by building a team, a virtual team of expertise, tax law, planning, portfolio. And technology today has made that so much easier. If anything, you probably all remember Dr. Samuel Johnson, whoever doesn't love London, doesn't love life. Well, maybe a century ago, that'll be on those TV shows you like to watch. But here he observed, he said, knowledge is of two types. You either know a thing, or you know someone who does. Then we take into account one of my favorite books, Flow, which addresses the whole notion of the psychology of optimal experience. And ultimately, our purpose is to guide our people towards the pursuit of happiness. And psychologists and the rest of them tell us that there's really three items that lead to happiness. The first, experiencing life with others. Even a peasant in India in a community is happier than we tend to be because they can watch a sunset, break some bread. The other issue is overcoming challenges, but not too much. And finally, altruism and sharing. This is what drives us. Money is a means to an end. With that said, what advisor would you choose to guide you through the difficulties of life? And I'd be willing to bet there's some people in this room who don't know who Gordon Gekko is from Wall Street. This frightened me. This came out 30 years ago. Well, there are 1 million investment advisors in the world. We all look the same to you, and you don't quite know what we're talking about. So what's the key? It's trustworthiness. And Covey defined it thus. Trustworthiness is about integrity and ability. Integrity, keeping a promise. Ability, the capacity to do so. And with that in mind, many would think the best advisors would have at least two skills. Ben Bernanke, a great economist, and Dr. Fraser Crane. Well, that would be me. I actually am told that I look a little bit like Ben Bernanke's stuntman double, and I'm a lot more like Fraser Crane. And I actually have a degree in economics and behavioral psychology. There aren't many of us. And what we do is, we all 1 million of us have three key variables, and technology helps so much that now we can offer the quality advice to people with less money than in the old days, the same kind of advice that typically people with over $10 million could expect. To have comprehensive planning, portfolio design and management, and then ultimately the services, which is to listen and educate. And boy, do we need education. This is a list of 36 alternative investments, and you're going to need them because the bond market is dead. Get some advice. And innovation helps because with communication, we have Salesforce. With organizing, we have programs known as e-money that puts it all together, a little bit like Mint and QuickBooks. And then how to manage money. Again, programs are available to people with a few $1,000s that up until 10 years ago weren't. But how do we break through the barriers? The greatest barrier we have, folks, in many ways as a culture, and certainly in our industry, is over-regulation. And typically it comes after the crisis. We respond, we react to crisis. And I would simply say, if you think of the Dodd-Frank, Barney Frank, he'll never outwit Bernie, ever. So ultimately the regulation comes into play to diminish the ability of trustworthy advisors to get their job done, and ultimately it will harm the regular people. And if we take a look at another issue, again, as we started, the press and the FT and the Wall Street Journal are some of the best. But it's like a Texas river. It's a mile wide and an inch deep. It's designed to stimulate thinking and drive you towards deeper understanding. But there's a Nobel Prize for behavioral finance because ultimately decision thinking is about decision feeling, facts and feelings, emotion and detail. Where we could use some help is the barrier to entry in our profession is far too low. We need to demand a higher standard along the lines of law and tax. And with that, I bring to a close this whole notion, another favorite quote of mine from the WASP of Ipswich, and you won't know who he is, but he said this a couple of centuries ago: a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Drink deep of the Purian well, or drink not at all. Thank you.
My name is Nicholas Erker. I'm with Erker Grain, Erker Trading Company, and Smirks, and another company we just started called Colorado Farm Products. And we'll get into that. You guys probably heard a little bit about us. But get started here with a little bit about who we are and what we do. Erker Grain Company is one of 5 companies in the United States that's a processor of confection sunflower seeds. The confection sunflower is going to be your white striped sunflower that's going to be in the packages at the convenience stores. If you ever bought a bag of David's, Frito-Lay, any of those are all confection sunflower seeds. I'll go into detail about all these a little bit later here. Erker Trading Company is a company we started in 2010 and partnered with another factory in Texas, and we built a new sunflower plant in Texas to do the same products. And Erker Trading Company is charged with marketing, logistics, and sales of confection sunflowers that come from our facilities, and also millet from Colorado. Another company that I'm in charge of and majority owner in is Smirks, and we're an importer and trader of specialty ag products. We work with a lot of different items that everyone in this room's probably purchased at some point or another. If you've ever had a can of mixed nuts, we do those products. Cashews, hazelnuts, macadamias, all kinds of different things. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. And our most recent business venture is Colorado Farm Products. And Colorado Farm Products is a proposed marijuana cultivation and sales company located in a former correctional facility in Brush, Colorado. So I hear a little bit of laughing, and we're throwing some questions on that here. But Erker Grain Company is where it all started, and on our website I say it all started with a nut and an idea. And the nut's not actually me, it's my father. He got into the grain business in 1976, and a lot of the grain markets changed. And as the markets changed, our business had to change. And in 1990, we built a confection sunflower plant and started originating sunflowers from growers here in Colorado, Nebraska, Montana. We actually originate sunflowers all the way from Canada to Mexico. Our furthest south grower is in McAllen, Texas, which is right on the border with Mexico. We work with our farmers to select planting seeds that will maximize their returns, and we also work with our customers to find which varieties yield the characteristics that they're looking for, whether it be a fatter seed, a longer seed, a bigger kernel, whatever those might be. We work with our genetics companies and with our farmers to find that blend that gets our customers what they need. We contract with the farmers, we buy back all their goods, we then clean them, size them, and ship them around the world. With Erker Grain Company, about 85% of the products that we produce here in Colorado are exported outside of the United States. Our main customer focus being in the Middle East. So you see on the news every night they're talking about ISIS and Iraq and Syria, and those are all, our customers are all there. We've got shipments on the water to Syria, we've got shipments on the water to Iraq and Jordan and all these countries that are experiencing strife. So we're constantly paying attention to global issues to understand how that's going to impact our business. And that's really the focus of Erker Trading Company. Erker Trading Company facilitates all of the marketing, sales, and logistics for our partner processing plants, as I mentioned at the beginning. Our first plant, where it all started, is here in Fort Morgan, Colorado, and that is Erker Grain Company. Thank you. And again, we're one of only 5 companies in the United States that do this, so there's only few of us. But we also market for Alice Grain Company, which is a part owner of Erker Trading Company. And their plant is in Alice, Texas. And for those of you that don't know Texas that well, it's about 45 miles west of Corpus Christi. We communicate with our customers and partner facilities in more than 20 countries to maximize the economic and marketing opportunities, as I discussed earlier, through selection of varieties that yield good results for our farmers and also the characteristics that our customers are looking for. We research global and regional trends to provide up-to-date opportunities. There's always something changing. In agriculture, every year is different. You know, sunflowers are a lot of times grouped in with all the other nuts. And the only thing that's different from sunflowers is that the product that we harvest is different every year. An almond tree takes about 3 to 7 years before you start getting a harvest. A macadamia tree is about 12 years. So once these things start producing, they're pretty similar every year, but sunflowers are different every year. Our next company is Smirks, and we started Smirks in about 2000, and we started as a retail company, started doing our own retail brand, and found that that really wasn't our niche. We can sell truckloads, but we can't sell a single package. So we kind of changed our business model and have changed now to an importer and trader of specialty agricultural products. As I mentioned, coconut, banana chips, chia, and we have over 100 other ingredients that we supply to customers throughout the United States. We facilitate competitive marketing and purchasing opportunities between our customers and suppliers. Most of the products that we work with do not originate in the United States. So we always have to understand the market trends that are taking place in the countries where they originate from and what our customers here at home are looking for, while keeping in mind all of the local regulations here at home. We warehouse products for just-in-time delivery to our customers. We currently have warehouses in Los Angeles, Oakland, Denver, and New Jersey. So we have distribution throughout the United States and work for just-in-time distribution to our customers. And we're the only company in Colorado with this unique selection of products. Most of the other companies that are in this industry that do importing and trading of these types of commodities are located either in New Jersey or Los Angeles. Those seem to be natural because that's where the products come into. The ports are there, they have a lot of international exposure, but we kind of broke the mold when we did that here in Colorado, and we've really been able to capitalize on the natural food industry that's moved in here. And the Front Range of Colorado has turned into the Silicon Valley of food, and we've had a lot of new food manufacturers moving in here, and we're here to support those folks. And our most controversial business that we've got going right now is Colorado Farm Products. And Colorado Farm Products kind of continues our ideas of innovation in agriculture. A lot of people don't necessarily link marijuana to agriculture, but it's an agricultural product. It has to be grown, it has to be harvested, it has to be processed. So along with that, we had the opportunity to purchase the former correctional facility in Brush, Colorado. And I didn't do it with the intention of producing marijuana, but that idea kind of evolved from it. We bought it to do warehouse and office space for our Smirks division, but it was a little too costly for us. We found we could get it done cheaper out of there. So we're reutilizing an abandoned asset for agriculture and economic opportunities while creating expanded opportunities for agriculture in Colorado.
Napa Valley. So I have a question before we get started. Who wants to win a bottle of Pinot Noir?
Yeah.
Who knows what the #1 country in the world of consuming wine is? Good answer. Come get your wine. USA. Whoever said USA is correct. That is only. That is a bottle of our 2012 Pinot Noir.
I got a bottle opener.
The United States just in the last few years became the #1 consumer over France. Who knows who the fastest growing country on the planet is of wine consumption? China. Good answer. Who said China? Bottle of 2010 Syrah. It was just introduced 2 weeks ago for the first time. Thank you very much.
So, Nick is sitting back here thinking, I could have brought marijuana.
Yeah, exactly.
The brownies.
You mind clicking?
Here.
So here's our story. You know, we like to say every sip tells a story because my wife grew up in a big Sicilian family. In fact, my in-laws were with us the last couple of days in Pueblo, Colorado, where this whole wine business started. Her grandfather grew grapes, crushed grapes, barreled them in the basement, bottled them, and served them to her in a baby bottle when she was very young. So that's where this business literally started. And so I'm from Arkansas. I moved here in 1988, and I was a bourbon and beer guy. I didn't know anything about wine, except that sometimes you guzzled Boone Farm, and that was really fun when we were young. But she helped get me down the road on my alcoholic consumption, and over time, this is what came out. Idella is my grandmother's name from Arkansas. It was in the very southeast corner of the state where Georgia Pacific grew tons of trees and harvested them, and all my family members were farmers in that light, while Tammy's family was in the steel mill in Pueblo after they came over from Sicily. So this project started in 2009 when we bought into a winery in Napa Valley. And little did we know it was going to take off the way it was. We spent 25 years in the tech business. No one ever really wanted to talk about the tech business. Everyone likes talking about wine. It's a really fun business. And so over the last 5 years, we've built 5 vintages. We just released our 2010, which was our first year, 2 weeks ago at an event Melody and some other folks were at in downtown Denver. We are a Denver company, but we grow our grapes and harvest and produce our wine in California. And we're selling most of our wine in Colorado. So it's a fun business for us because we love Colorado, we love California too, we don't have a home there. But there's no place on the planet it's better to live than Colorado. I know you'll agree with me, no matter where you are in Colorado. So here's the stats. Can you believe that China's growth over 3 years was 56%? They're now buying vineyards in California at enormous values. And so it's changing the landscape of the wine industry. Here's our winemaker, Patrick Sabot, and this was last week at our opening of Idella in Napa Valley. We did our release event 1 week later out there. And there's a lot of things going on in the wine business because there's two parts of it. There's the farming side and there's the business side. So we don't own a vineyard and we don't own a winery. We're just winemakers. And what we're really doing is packaging and private labeling. The part we do have a say in is the wine itself. When it gets blended and bottled, we pick our taste that we want, whether it's we're going to use 100% of what came out of that ground, or we're going to blend it with another grape that came close by that complements it. Otherwise, it's our business to sell direct to the consumer. And it's our marketing, it's our relationships. They're really the back office. So the way that things are changing in the world is a lot of great people make a lot of great things. Why go out and recreate a vineyard or recreate a winery? And so we're entrepreneurs, and that's how it's come together for us. I won't talk about the burgeoning middle class on the globe, but we're looking at some disruptive technology in that. I'm just going to check my time here just to see how bad I'm going.
He's going for that drink.
Going for my own drink, yes. The component of the world is we think there's an opportunity to change the way wine is bottled. And I'll just share that with you right now. You don't drink a 750 milliliter of water or pop or juice, but you do wine. And when you open a bottle of wine, it's your bottle to drink pretty quickly or it will go bad. So we're looking at opportunities to really disrupt the market by bringing it in smaller quantities so you can buy it in a glass or 2 glasses. If that fits you. Barriers, it's obvious this is not an easy business to get into. It's costly. There's a sea of competition out there to choose from. We're not trying to get into liquor stores and restaurants, although we did get one major victory just because a friend of mine from Arkansas is the general manager of Morton Steakhouse in New York City. We're getting added to the wine list there, so we're really excited about that. That will be our first, and more than likely our only restaurant that our wine will be available in. And so with that, we could use some help figuring out a way to grow great grapes. No offense to Grand Junction, they have a great wine industry, but in 1972 and 3, California got put on the global map. If you've ever watched the movie Bottle Shock, if you haven't, I would encourage you to watch it. It's really a piece of great history of America when we really stomped the French, when Chateau Montelena Chardonnay won the blind taste test. From that point forward, California was on the global map for winemaking. So it's hard to beat the climate, the terroir that's coming out of there. And so we would love to figure out a way to grow grapes there, transport them here, and create truly a Colorado winery here in Denver and here in Colorado. So with that being said, help us get the word out. Otherwise, thank you very much.
So an operating room is supposed to be a calm, collected, organized environment. Except when you do trauma. So this is a gunshot wound to the abdomen. That's me on the right, and Barb. We're trying to stop the bleeding, and everybody else in that room is trying to keep them alive long enough for us to stop the bleeding. It's chaotic, it's hectic, and it's extremely stressful. And up until very recently, there's no way for us to practice. We practice on you. Not good for you, not good for us. So, just forward. So, the reason that Sully could land that plane in the Hudson River is partly because he's a great pilot, but most importantly because he practiced the crash sequence over and over and over again in a simulator, in a flight simulator. Flight simulators change the face of aviation, and every other industry or profession that has critical operator events, meaning people like me, who have to make critical decisions that are time sensitive, want something that's the equivalent of a flight simulator. Now, unfortunately, in the world, in our news, we see this very often, and this leads to this, and so that is not Fallujah. That is a movie studio in San Diego that used to be called Stu Siegel Productions, that is now called Strategic Operations, that a group of surgeons, friends of mine, we volunteered there to help create what we call hyper-realistic immersion training, which in the parlance of stress training is what a flight simulator is. Those are real Marines before they get deployed, and they get to feel, so you can imagine, you're going to throw them into this hellacious situation. They get to at least feel what it's like. Bombs go off, bullets fly, and it was the Marines who started this story of how we got involved in this, because they said, hey man, you got to do something for the corpsmen. We got to have injuries. I mean, this is great, but we got to have injuries. So the movie studio special effects people started creating what we call human-worn partial task simulators, which we call cut suits. So making an airway. Now these are real people on the ground screaming. These guys are on their knees. Bombs are going off. They're making an airway. That's a real knife on a real person's throat, but the simulator's protecting them. Again, needling the chest. You might recognize this injury. This is the tourniquet injury from Black Hawk Down. When I saw that movie, before I got involved with these guys, I was like, you know, from a surgeon's point of view, I go, did they make that, or did they do that with a camera? If they made that, I want to see how they did that. So the next thing, and this is preparing one of the real live actors, and they put him into the cut suit, and the cut suit fits over him, and you can do all kinds of things to him. So the next thing that happened was my friend Dr. Tony Laporta and some other people who were military surgeons got involved with strategic operations and said, hey man, make something for us. We need to practice too. We need something that we can operate on. So they started creating the cut suit. You can see it's facing down, pelvis down there, goes on, worn over, it's got organs, and most importantly, if it would just had organs, it would be like a toy, because in order to produce the hyper-realistic training, immersion training, you have to have the time factor. It's got to bleed, and you got to be able to lose the game. That creates the stress that allows you to make it like a flight simulator. So it's got a vascular system that's going to be made by one of those 3D printers like you talked about in the plenary session. It's hooked to a pumping thing that goes to a little camelback, and we can control it with a little handheld thing and make it bleed and hook it up to monitors. And this is the place, this used to be where they made horror movies and whatnot. Now they create these cut suits in there. All the people that create them are not medical people, they're special effects people. So it's the blending of two different things. So this is, we can create these operations very realistically. This is one of the injuries, complete with fake stool contamination. I mean, they're incredibly realistic, so we can create the scenarios. And this is us experimentally teaching medical students. They're allowing us to be the beta test site out here in Colorado. And most importantly, my interest in it is in rural Colorado, where you have really good surgeons practicing and really good nurses and whatnot, but they may see 2 or 3 devastating injuries a year. How do they practice? So our goal is to bring these cut suits and set up a little van that we can take around to the rural hospitals and do rural training. And now the most important part of this whole thing that I want to tell you is that video at the beginning, that is real footage that somebody took from a cell phone, but not a real patient. That's cut suit we were operating on. a completely simulated environment so that we could test our team out in Vail, and the feedback we got was tremendous. So that is my non-uplifting lecture.
What kind of support do you need?
Great.
Money, like usual.
Yeah, but you got facilities to do it here?
Well,
You got support from the medical industry?
so it works best if you do it at the facility. So there's a couple of ways. We've tried it different ways. We brought some cut suits out to the state trauma meeting, and we took some rural surgeons and built one of these operating rooms in a hotel room and did it with them, and they said that is great, but we'd rather do it at our place with our team. Well, that makes the logistics more expensive. You got to transport all this stuff. You know, I got 400-pound foot lockers delivered to my house by FedEx the day before, because it's a lot of stuff to do this. But it's got multiple potential.
It just seems like you have some regulatory restrictions in hospitals for some of this.
No, it's the opposite. The government requires you to have at least 2 disaster drills a year in every hospital, and now they usually stop at the door to the operating room. Well, the game is frequently won or lost in the operating room, and now we can take that simulation right through to transport, you know. So we've done it only in Vail. Tony brought the stuff up. We did it in Vail. We shot that person in the park with several people already. Also with simulation. I mean, we started it with police, fire, ambulance from the park to the hospital, through the emergency room into the operating room. And having been a trauma surgeon at Denver General and worked around this my whole life, it's one of the best simulation exercises ever.
Did he make it?
He did.
All right, so we're here to talk about tourism and outdoor rec. I am with Cobb Marketing Associations. We have a really easy, simple business model. Do what works. And all day long we've heard a lot about macro to micro thinking, and I'm here to talk about the same thing. We've won a lot of awards and accolades, but probably the one that applies most to today's thinking is the Davy Award. It's that epic battle between David and Goliath. And it is given to those who have achieved big results with very small budgets. So let's talk about that. Tourism and outdoor rec is a gigantic business, but often locals have very small budgets. Oh, they're all up there, but these are some of the accounts that we work on. We've done a Eagle Tourism campaign for $10,000. Fruta annual campaign is $65,000. Palisades' entire annual campaign budget is $30,000. And the Siskiyou County, California campaign budget is $10,000. So what I'm talking about today is small is the new big. And we have that from all over, right? All right, so tourism and outdoor is big with eye-popping numbers. They range from $100 million budgets down to you name it. But the good news is, and tourism is generally considered a very good investment. The top, of the entire spend in the United States, 4 states spend more than half of all of the money, so how do you compete? The good news is, okay, well, we'll talk through that without it. The average return on investment for tourism is $200 for every dollar spent. In the state of Colorado, the CTO estimates it's closer to $228 for every $1 spent. It's provides, according to the U.S. Travel Association, it's a $2 trillion economic impact to the United States, and it's 5 million jobs. But remember, with internet connectivity and freelancers, small groups and disruptive business models, small is the new big, and I'm going to show you 3 effective concepts to make that happen. Remember the furniture game, high-low. Just because it looks great doesn't mean it has to cost a lot of money. The way to win this game is concept counts. Let's look at a couple of high-lows. Oh, we don't have those either. Florida's $100 million budget produces a campaign that's called Fly South. Colorado produces their $6 million campaign called Come to Life. Colorado tourism economy has been growing for 2 years on a very steady and trajectory, a very steady upward trajectory. According to Dean Runyon, the increases since 1996 have been phenomenal. It now creates 58 million visitors a year, $17 trillion in Colorado spending, $918 million in tax revenue, and 145,000 jobs. Let's look at something even smaller. Oh, these didn't show up either. None of my pictures are here. What happened?
Wow. You have your end.
Moab, right near our country, has a $300,000 annual budget against Fruita's $65,000 budget. The Moab campaign is good, but Fruita easily rivals and often exceeds Moab's reputation as an international biking economy. When it comes to, hey, how do you like that campaign ad? We like to keep it simple.
All right, here we go. You're coming back in.
When it comes to coming up with good concept, the thing to remember is the CPA rule. If you take your CPA a box full of receipts that are disorganized, he will be far less effective at coming up with a tax return for you and a refund for you than if you are able to bring him a nice tidy set of books. So,
You have
You
your
guys
slides.
try?
They are there, so
all right, there we go.
Well done.
I don't know about you, would you rather fly south or come to life, but I would rather come to life. There's Fruita versus Moab, $300,000, $65,000, and yet the Fruita reputation is as large as Moab's and actually surpassing it now. The thing to remember is the CPA, as I told you, the CPA rule. So when you're going to try to create big results with a small budget, do your homework. Find your great photos, find your great stories, find your great pitch, and then take that to small groups of talented people. Concept number 2, you've heard this all day long. Don't hesitate, collaborate. Now I know it's kind of scary jumping in the sandbox with people that you consider to be your competitors, but don't hesitate, be fearless. Dynamic collaborations are in, and big stoic monoliths are out. They move faster and farther. These are 2 campaigns that we did with the collaboration between the Grand Junction Palisade and Fruita Tourism offices. On the right side, you see what we call the French press, and you see what we spend here. Grand Junction kicked in $2,000, Fruita $2,000, and Palisade got to come in for just $1,000. We brought a world-renowned group of mountain bikers to the Grand Valley, 3 days of bike riding. We will leverage well over $100,000 for the European press. Because of Killian Braun up here in the left-hand corner, we will easily get over $1 million of YouTube views. We got $1,500 worth of raw footage that each one of the partners will be able to edit into their own videos. And we got the Mesa County Public Library to produce a documentary with that video of exactly $0.00. So, the posting dope we're going to get out of that, there will be Facebooks and socials, and the channels will be all alive with that. Red Hot Dirt Days is a direct sale interactive site that we produced for $7,000. $3,000 from Fruita, $3,000 from Grand Junction, and again, just $1,000 from Palisade. This is a really cool site. The visitor walks their way down through it, picks the lodging deals and the other deals that they have, and at the end, your deals are text to your phone. You just take that to wherever you picked your deals, and you get them. Concept number 3. Hey, but I couldn't have my thing.
that's okay. Go.
Concept number 3 is find your phone. This is Mike the Headless Chicken, and if you didn't know, he was headed for the stew pot until the butcher's knife kept just enough brain cell on him to keep him alive for years. What was a sideshow became a legend, and he now has his own brand, he has his own website, he has his own social channel, and he has a lot of Facebook fans. You can see Aspen with their 30,000 Facebook fans. Funky Content has created almost a third of that in just 2 years for these 2 tiny economic development organizations.
Impressive.
So remember, small is big, high-low concept, remember content counts, don't hesitate, collaborate, and number 3, find your fun. Thanks a lot.